appears we're getting closer and closer in basically seeing hell open up pertaining to a group of people that obviously don't care about life in the atomic nuclear age, pertaining to what's going on over there right now with this nuclear facility, that I guess from what they're talking about come within a matter of a few minutes of getting so hot, the reactors, that it began a meltdown. And you tend to wonder, how about if a Fruit Loop is in there that purposely wants to sabotage that plant to the degree that once something like that starts, there's not going to be no putting it out. And then you tend to wonder, okay, what if that whole area gets contaminated and radiation is spewing out, and now it's contaminating, ain't no telling what else? Is that going to give whoever the upper edge in thinking, well, what difference does it make now if we explode nuclear bombs or not? There's already nuclear radiation activity going on out there anyway. And that could be the very ingredients that could cause a nuclear war if this thing blows. And people may say, oh, your imagination is running wild. No, my imagination ain't running wild. What they're dealing with right now is hell. They are literally messing with hell. Because one thing could lead into another thing, it could lead into another thing, and the next thing you know, this whole planet be shoved off into Great Tribulation. Don't say it can't happen.
More energy, this will become more and more important. Even with the plant offline, though, obviously, as Sam explained in his story, you still need external electricity to be connected in order to run the cooling systems, the ventilation systems, to keep the lights on, that kind of a thing. The head of Ukraine's state nuclear power operator, though, says that, look, he thinks that the Russians are actually trying to knock power out on purpose because they want to
intentionally
get the power plant not on the Ukrainian grid, but on the Russian grid.
To take it out for a while, just make the switch?
Correct. So they run on different frequencies. So he says that you'd have to shut it down completely, disconnect it from all other power sources, and run on those backup generators. And that is the period of time where he says it would be really dangerous because these generators are not really supposed to run for long periods of time. Yesterday, they were forced to switch on for a period of time when fires nearby at a thermal power plant cut off the power entirely. And President Zelensky says that, look, the world needs to know what exactly the risk is. Listen.
If the diesel generators hadn't turned on, if the automation and our staff on the plant had not reacted after the blackout, then we would already be forced to overcome the consequences of a radiation accident. Russia has put Ukraine and all Europeans in a situation one step away from a radiation disaster.
So not only do you have the external power issue, Max, you also...
And like I said a while ago, if that was to ever occur, then their minds would automatically go over to the aspect, well, they're already dying of radiation anyways. What difference does it make if we send off a few nuclear bombs? And one nuclear event could cause another nuclear event that could cause another nuclear event that could basically throw this world off into hell. Great Tribulation. And a lot of people that hear me, I know they're going to say, well, he's really, really way out there, isn't he? Am I? Am I? We're dealing with people that don't give a damn about life, that is blowing up hospitals and daycare centers and civilian life, that is breaking all Geneva ethnic rules that has ever been created on an international level. Am I really? overemphasizing what I'm hearing? This is not good. When you're playing with fire, you will get burnt. This is not good.
Explain the potential of Russian explosives, military hardware that are actually inside of the plant. You also have staff telling CNN that they are leaving by the dozens. Remember, it's Ukrainian staff who are still actually operating the site. And of course, you have fighting in the area as well. And if there were to be fighting and some kind of an accident, it would come from either the reactors, which are housed in sort of protective buildings that are meant to withstand even the force of an accidental plane crash. Could they withstand a missile strike, though? Do you really want to find out? We don't know the answer to that. The other possible risk here is the cooling pools, which sit on the sites with the spent nuclear fuel. Those, though, they're right out there in the open, so it wouldn't take much in that case.
Okay, Scott, thank you. The US military striking back in Syria, meanwhile, following a rocket attack that injured American troops in the region. US Central Command carried out a series of retaliatory strikes on Iran-affiliated militants in the northeastern part of Syria. Oren Lieberman has more.
The exchanges of fire we've seen between U.S. troops in Syria and Iranian-backed militias have all happened very quickly over the course of the last 24, 48, 72 hours and have appeared to escalate, at least for now. So the key question is, where does this go from here? Earlier in the week, the U.S. carried out strikes against 9 bunkers used by Iranian-backed militias. U.S. Central Command said in a statement those bunkers used to store ammunition as well as logistic support for operations by those Iranian-backed militias. And those strikes were in response to rocket attacks and drone attacks on bases housing U.S. troops a week earlier. But from the strikes on those bunkers, it quickly escalated at a very rapid pace. In less than 24 hours, there were rocket attacks on 2 separate bases housing U.S. troops in Syria, known as Conoco and Green Village. At the Conoco site, U.S. Central Command says 3 U.S. service members were injured. They suffered minor injuries. 1 has already returned to duty, while the other 2 remain under evaluation. But in an exchange of fire right around that rocket attack, the U.S. says they used Apache attack helicopters to strike back at the origin of that rocket attack. In that, Central Command, or CENTCOM, says they killed 3 militants as well as destroyed some launchers. But the U.S. says in what it called a proportional and deliberate response, carried out another series of strikes against what they say was somebody preparing to launch another rocket attack on U.S. forces in the region. In that, U.S. CENTCOM says 1 more militant was killed as we wait for more information. Now, it certainly looks like this is accelerating, or at least it was accelerating. But a U.S. official says they believe the military is of the opinion that for now deterrence has been restored and this round of escalation has come to its culmination. But of course it remains a very sensitive situation, one that could change very quickly, so we're keeping a very close eye on it. Oren Lieberman, CNN in the Pentagon.
See what I'm saying? It's almost as if the world has shifted after COVID to the degree that life is no longer all that valuable. And they're displaying it by getting awful careless with all this stuff that not only have they become careless, but it's almost as if they're saying, well, life is expendable. And this isn't just coming from 1 or 2 areas. There is some major conflicts going on right now in the world, in one country or the other, that I have never seen a phenomenon like this. And I guess maybe it's because of the satellites and the TV and all the close circuitry networks that we have today, but I have never seen basically a pattern of the world being thrown off into madness. Being thrown off into madness is the best way that I have of expressing all the stuff that I'm seeing, especially whenever you go over to that nuclear plant that they said they had to shut down, and the emergency generators just so happens they come on. But what if they didn't come on? What if? It's as if the world is sitting back and just waiting for, you see there, we told you so, you see there, we told you so. It's really, really a frightful thing to fall into the hands of an angry God. And if God sees this as an out of control scenario, yes, we could very well be knocking on heaven's door right now. Because if this thing gets thrown off into hell, I guarantee you, you'll regret it.
In the Pentagon.
Yet another American politician visiting Taiwan in defiance of Beijing, which considers the island a renegade Chinese province. A US Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn met with President Tsai Ing-wen, reassuring her of American support for the self-governing island.
And we look forward to continuing to help and support Taiwan as they push forward as an independent nation.
Blackburn does not represent the Biden administration on her trip, and her comments do not change the long-standing One China policy, which recognizes Taiwan as part of China. Blackburn's visit comes despite increased pressure from Beijing.
Looked upon as being a renegade. Wow. Wonder how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that it cost to make that trip.
It's a sign.
Keep going here. See what else we can find.
A lot of people are wondering why.
You see the worst of humanity?
Putin might use a nuclear weapon.
Absolutely terrifying.
But you also see the best of humanity. My job is to be present.
The human cost is right here.
And to tell these stories.
We're talking about families.
That is the most important thing. I'm Clarissa Ward in Ukraine. This is CNN.
I'm Linda Kincaid in Atlanta, and this is CNN.
Welcome back to CNN Newsroom. I'm Max Foster. If you're just joining us, let me bring you up to date with our top stories this hour. A federal judge ordered the Justice Department to release the redacted affidavit used to justify the FBI's search of Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. The release could happen any time between now and noon on this Friday. Plus, Thursday night, President Biden gave a speech to supporters about his strategy. This as the Democrats grow more bullish about the upcoming midterm elections. More on these stories in early start in about 30 minutes from now. We're going to move now on to another major story, though, out of Washington. There are still a lot of unanswered questions about President Biden's newly announced student loan forgiveness plan, like when borrowers will start to see that relief and how the country plans to pay for it as well. CNN's Brian Todd is taking a closer look at those details.
Vanessa Russell recently told CNN she's saddled with about $48,000 of student loan debt.
I can't afford my expenses. I can't afford my groceries. I can't afford my transportation, my rent, and still try to put money aside for student debt.
It's one of the largest contributors to household debt and can flood many students throughout their lives.
Vanessa Russell likes President Biden's new plan, where borrowers can have $10,000 of their student loans wiped out if they make less than $125,000 a year, or are married couples or heads of households making less than $250,000. $20,000 of student loans can be forgiven for those who received Pell Grants given to students from low and middle income families. The president is also planning to extend the pause on all student loan payments, a moratorium put in place during the pandemic until January.
I'm really excited. It's going to cut my loan almost in half.
Others are critical.
Other people have other types of debt and those aren't being forgiven, so it's just tough to swallow.
I just don't think it's enough to come out and say they're forgiving $10,000 to $20,000. It's just kind of ridiculous.
What if you took out a loan but couldn't finish college?
This broad-based loan forgiveness will cover people who took out debt but didn't have the degree.
But not every borrower can take advantage of this.
It also won't benefit people who have private student loans. This is only offered to people who have federal loans.
That's the bulk of borrowers, experts say. But critics are calling this plan unfair, a slap in the face to people who saved for college, who worked doggedly to pay off their loans, or who went into the military or another field because they couldn't take on student debt. Some argue that American taxpayers will be footing the bill for a benefit for people who don't need it.
Well, not everybody that has student debt is rich. Disproportionately, student debt is being held by people that have advanced degrees and pretty good income, and they can bear it a lot more than everyday Americans that are seeing the cost of their gasoline and clothing go up.
And there's still the issue of skyrocketing tuitions. The total cost of going to college now averages over $35,000 a year, closer to $55,000 a year at a private university, according to the Education Data Initiative.
I'm not sure that it is going to help the root cause, which is college costs too much.
And Michelle Singletary worries that this new loan forgiveness program won't make colleges rethink their tuition hikes. She worries it'll be just the opposite, that if this program becomes popular, more people will rush to take out loans, and colleges will continue to charge whatever they want. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
The teacher strike has delayed the start of the school year for some.
Now, does that sound like to you a runaway train? An accident just waiting to happen, basically like that nuclear plant over there? The whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, is at the brink. It's teetering at the brink of a total catastrophe, regardless whether it's conflicts going on all over the world, or it's our economy, or it's debts, or it's us being trillions of dollars in debt. The whole thing is on the brink of teetering towards disaster. And if people can't see that and identify that, then maybe they can't see the trees for the forest.
For some 25,000 students in one Seattle suburb. A message posted on the Kent School District's website confirmed that all elementary and middle school activities were postponed until further notice. Negotiations with the teachers' union have been underway since July. Union representatives say the strike is...
Really? And that's the answer right here as we're trying to get over COVID? Really? That's the answer? As we're trying to deal with a maniac over in Russia? Really? That's the answer with everything tripling in expenses and going wacko like it is? Really? This is the answer?
Several anti-union district proposals and the state's refusal to grant cost of living pay increases. Now, as children in the US get ready to head back to class, school officials have to figure out how to deal with any potential monkeypox cases. The disease is rare in children, but they can still get it, and you can see here the breakdown in total cases so far in children under the age of 15. So what can parents do on their end to help keep their kids safe? Well, the National Association of School Nurses has some recommendations. Familiarize yourself with monkeypox symptoms. Keep children home if they have a fever and a rash. Know that several illnesses can cause a fever and a rash. Talk to your child's doctor. Avoid blaming or excluding children based on fear or stigma, and wash hands. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Well, worldwide, there's some good news about the virus. According to the World Health Organization, monkeypox cases are down more than 20% globally for the week. But in the Americas, cases are rising. The WHO blames this, particularly on Latin America, on insufficient awareness combined with the lack of access to vaccines. And an outbreak of E. coli has been associated with Wendy's fast food restaurants in 4 US states, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And more than 80 people have been infected and 38 were hospitalized, but no deaths have been reported. No specific food has been confirmed as a source of the outbreak, but most sick people reported eating sandwiches with romaine lettuce. As a precaution, Wendy's is removing romaine lettuce in states reporting cases. Now, the bitter legacy of colonialism still hangs over relations between Algeria and France. Now, President Macron has gone there on a mission to improve those relations and possibly secure more natural gas in France. A live report from Paris is just ahead. Plus, power outages in Cuba are on the rise. How the blackouts are disrupting the lives of thousands across that island, even leading to acts of defiance by the people.
All new Inside Africa.
Here to attack the black community, that he specifically was targeting black people.
We are live outside 10 Downing Street as the British Prime Minister resigns.
This missile struck right here. This city is crying as it mourns its war dead. Our other car completely destroyed.
Coming in. Smell the tear gas.
I'm going to show you what's happening here. This is a fire they've been fighting on there.
We see the Minyama Lakers on the other side of the street. We see a fire behind the precinct.
Do you mind telling me why I'm under arrest? Why am I under arrest?
These people have been under bombardment for 7 straight days. Давайте мне. Ну вот, ничего страшного, ничего страшного. People are obviously incredibly affected by the situation.
The images we'd be getting tell the story. We're covering all the angles of what happens now.
Good luck to all of us. Thank you for listening. Good luck to all of us. And shalom.